you thinking about moving to Austin, Texas, but unsure about what part? Maybe you want to be just outside the hustle and bustle in one of the cute suburbs? Well, you're in luck. Today we're covering Dripping Springs. It's about 20 miles west of Austin, and it is the cutest small town. Today I'm going to tell you all the best and worst things about living there. Yeah, I'm going to give you all the pros and cons. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you a property that's listed for sale just outside of Dripping Springs for $15 million. It's a beautiful home on 32 acres. You don't want to miss it. So let's dive into Dripping Springs right now. Hi, my name is Nicole Cooper. My team and I get calls and emails from people just like you needing help moving in and around Austin, Texas, and we sure do love it. So whether you're looking to move today, tomorrow, or somewhere in between, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. We're always available to help you find the perfect home that matches your lifestyle. When you think of Dripping Springs, a small rural community with a cute downtown street, population of about 9,000, when you think of friendly Texas vibe, Dripping Springs is oozing with it. When you drive down the street, everybody waves at you. That's small town Texas in a nutshell. It is big enough to have grocery stores and a good school system. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you the top pros and cons. We're going to start with the pros. They're in no particular order, and then we're going to switch over to the cons and let you know kind of what you can expect if you were to move to Dripping Springs. And then at the end, like I already mentioned, I'm going to show you that beautiful ultra luxury property on 32 acres. So as we talk about Dripping Springs today, the first pro is just its natural beauty. It has a few nicknames, and the first nickname we're going to go through today is it's called the Gateway to the Hill Country. Think scenic views, rolling hills, beautiful terrain, limestone creeks. I mean, it's just very, very pretty, and that's what is the first draw to get people into that area. Originally, it was settled in about the 1850s, and it's because there's those beautiful creeks going through there. People set up their little campsites and things next to the creeks because they were clear running water. The second pro about living in Dripping Springs is the outdoor activities. All that beauty does bring with it all the activities that people want to do. We'll start with Hamilton Pool. It's a beautiful kind of deep water area near Lake Travis. People go there to swim all summer long, and it's just a beautiful spot. There's also Pedernales Falls State Park. You can also go to Reimer's Ranch and do some rock climbing, or you can go to West Cave Preserve. Hiking galore all around, in and around Dripping Springs. The third pro about living in Dripping Springs, they have good schools. Like per niche.com, they ranked number 11 out of 709 schools in Texas for best public schools. Be aware though, if you have kids in school and you have multiple kids, different ages, they do have staggered school starts, so you won't be able to just send them all out at the same time. You'll have to accommodate for one school starting a little bit earlier than another and another, so keep that in mind as you're preparing for your school session in the fall. And as for their grades, Dripping Springs ISD per texasschools.gov, overall the whole independent school district gets a 93 out of 100. Their total enrollment is just over 7,800 students, so that's pretty small for all of the schools. Speaking of, they have one high school, 2 middle schools, and they have 5 elementary schools. And you can look up on texasschools.gov to see each one of them, what their school boundaries are, as well as what the individual schools' grades are in relation to a score out of 100. The fourth pro, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, it's got that small community feel. Everybody is super friendly there. It's got that rural vibe. Going with that rural vibe, there's some equestrian kind of friendly areas, arenas if you call them. It's rodeo friendly. So if you have a horse or you want to get a horse, Dripping Springs may be the area for you. The first thing is the downtown area. It's called Mercer Street. You can walk all of it. It's just a few blocks long, and you'll find like a music studio, vintage clothing, antiques, drinks, ice cream. It's super cute, and they're all locally owned small little boutique style shops. Up next, there's an olive what do you call it? It's not an olive winery, it's an olive farm. Yes. So there is a place that actually grows their own olives and makes their own olive oil right outside of Dripping Springs, and you can go and check it out and get a tour anytime. Number 6, this kind of goes along with unique attractions. The second nickname that Dripping Springs has, it's called Sipping and Dripping. They have the perfect trifecta of wineries, distilleries, and breweries. So you're never gonna go thirsty in or around Dripping Springs, Texas. Let's start with the distilleries. Deep Eddy Vodka is a national brand, but it started right there in Dripping Springs, and they named Deep Eddy after their favorite swimming hole. There's a place on Barton Creek called Deep Eddy, and so they make lots of flavors of vodka, and they have a tasting room and a beautiful venue there. In fact, I've been to a wedding there, so they host large-scale events at the distillery. Up next, you have Dripping Springs Vodka. Same idea, huge outdoor space, big tasting room. It's just beautiful, either any of these distilleries. Up next, we have One Shot Distillery, and they do a little bit of everything. They do whiskey, bourbon, they have craft beers. So they have kind of a big umbrella policy where they just do a few different types of things on the same grounds. They have a few partners there that specialize in their own things, but it's called One Shot. You can go out there, hang out their tasting room as well. And lastly in the area is Desert Door Distillery. They do Sotol. If you've never heard of Sotol, it's not a surprise. It's kind of obscure, but it's along the lines of tequila and mezcal, but it's not. It's a totally different plant. The actual drink is called Sotol, and the plant is called Sotol as well. And I have tasted it. It's an adventurous taste. You'll have to try it for yourself to see if you like it. So you'll have to go to their tasting room, which is also a beautiful place outdoors, indoors and outdoors, out at the Sotol Desert Door Wine Distillery. As for the wineries, I'm gonna name a few. There are many more in the greater area, but you have Bell Springs Winery, Dutchman's Winery, you have Hawks Shadow Estate Winery, and Solero Estate Winery. These, in addition to the other distilleries I've mentioned, are large-scale kind of gathering places with tasting rooms, so weddings happen there from time to time. And lastly, to the breweries, a couple of them, Suds Monkey, Jester King, both indoor and outdoor. They have huge patio areas with picnic grounds for the kids, so you can go out with the whole family and enjoy some drinks and food while the kids are playing on the playground. You're tasting all the craft beers. So as you can see, Sipping and Dripping is a very important moniker that goes along with the town because they have it all. The 7th pro about living in Dripping Springs is it's the wedding capital of Texas. So now we have our 3rd nickname for Dripping Springs. So in addition to all the just scenic beauty, as I've mentioned just before, at the breweries and distilleries and wineries, there's these large venues that can host weddings. And so you have the infrastructure and you have the natural beauty that just leans into people coming from all around and having their weddings in Dripping Springs. In addition, there's plenty of places to stay. There's lots of Airbnbs. There's lots of little boutique hotels and things like that. There's catering. Everyone kind of like sets up their businesses to accommodate all these big scale parties. All right, the notable venues are Ma Maison, Camp Lucy, the Creek House, all the wineries, distilleries, and breweries. People use their huge barns to do this in, so you'll never run out of venues in Dripping Springs if you're looking to get married. The 8th pro, there are annual festivals. So the town kind of prides itself on getting together. Remember I mentioned the community factor. They're gonna have fair market days where you can go out and buy your eggs and fresh meats and fresh vegetables and things like that. But as far as the annual festivals go, you have Founders Weekend, you have the annual rodeo and fair, you have the Hill Country Rally for kids, you've got Dripping with Taste, Pioneer Days, Dripping Springs Songwriters Festival, and you have Christmas on Mercer. And those are just a few of the many festivals that happen every single year. The last pro is it's a super safe community. On neighborhoodscouts.com, their rate of crime is 5 out of 1,000 residents in Dripping Springs, and compare that to the nationwide average of 24 out of 1,000. So Dripping Springs 5, nationally 24. You can rest assured you can go out at night and not worry about getting into trouble. Well, those are all the great things about living there. What could possibly be wrong with living in Dripping Springs? What are those cons? Well, first of all, it's the traffic. Heading out 290 is kind of getting brutal. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of traffic. There has been a lot of growth out in Dripping Springs, and the road just isn't quite big enough to handle the amount of traffic. In fact, between 2016 and 2022, there's been over 1,200 car crashes on that road. So they, meaning TxDOT, is thinking about widening Highway 290. So in the future, the road, and over the next 30 years, traffic is expected to increase 3 to 5 times. So TxDOT is taking measurements right now, doing environmental polls and all the things that they have to do to plan to build a wider highway coming from Austin to Dripping Springs. So it's busy now, but if it goes under construction for a couple of years, it's going to be incredibly difficult to get to and from Austin to Dripping Springs. Now, if you don't need to come into Austin very often, then that's not even going to affect you. But if you plan to live in Dripping Springs and you're going to commute to work in Austin every day, then you need to take that into consideration, because that road is going to happen. They're still just doing the due diligence to figure out how big, how wide, and where they're going to take it, which businesses and homes they're going to take out through eminent domain to put it through. So they're still allowing the residents to vote on it. That's coming to a close, and then they will make the final plans to make that road bigger. So in the future, it's going to be amazing. But for the current time being, Oak Hill is already under construction. The Highway 290 through Oak Hill and just about a few miles out of town towards Dripping Springs is a mess right now. But they want to continue it all the way from there to Dripping Springs, so there's enough highway for all the residents to actually be able to use it to get in and out of town. The second con that goes along with the highway is the growth. The infrastructure is lacking. So Dripping Springs is growing so fast that they can hardly keep up with the infrastructure, and think water, utilities, all things like that. And from 2020 to 2023, in just 3 years, it grew at 76.5%. To put things in perspective, during the same time period, Austin grew at 1.9%. So Dripping Springs has been discovered. People are moving out there by the droves for those reasons I mentioned in the pros, but one of the cons is the infrastructure can hardly keep up and hardly support it as it is currently. Which leads to our third con, and that is the water supply. Central Texas, we rely heavily on our aquifers underground, and when we don't have a lot of rainfall, they don't get refilled. And right now we're kind of going through a drought, and every single time we go through a drought, the water conversation comes up. So it is something that we're always talking about and working through in Central Texas, and especially in Dripping Springs. And you'll see on some of the properties, they will have a water well, their personal water well, in addition to city or county water, so that if one of them goes dry, they may still have water from the other. Now, I have friends that live all throughout Dripping Springs, and they haven't been without water, but it is a concern going forward as they build these tons of new homes, these new master plan communities that have 1,000 homes in them, where the water is going to come from. So make sure you and your agent do due diligence on the front end before you buy a home in Dripping Springs, or anywhere in Central Texas for that matter. Make sure you have enough water. The fourth con about living in Dripping Springs is just a bit of healthcare access. It's such a small town, there's not a lot of hospitals and doctors' clinics and things like that in Dripping Springs. You're mostly going to have to come back into Austin to do your big doctor visits or to go to a big emergency center. The fifth con is there aren't any golf courses in Dripping Springs. Now, the golf courses aren't far away. You have Driftwood Club, in Driftwood, which is probably, 20 miles away. But that one is super private and super expensive, ultra luxury, absolutely amazing club there. So that's on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Gray Rock Golf Course that's just on the south side of Austin. So the Dripping Springs side of Austin. And that one is a public course run by the city of Austin. So you have two extremes, not in Dripping Springs, but those are your closest options to golf, either Driftwood, private, ultra luxury, or Gray Rock, run by the city municipal facilities. And our last con, we cannot go without mentioning kind of the wildlife and pests out there. It's out in the country. It's Texas. We have snakes. We have scorpions. So if you're living in Dripping Springs, you're going to be shaking out your boots in the morning. Make sure you don't have any bugs in them. When you go outside to turn on the water hose, you want to make sure you look for snakes curled up in the water hose and things like that. Don't let it scare you. I've lived in Texas my entire life, and I've never been stung by a scorpion or bitten by a snake, but I do know how to look for them. So if you want tips on how to prevent those kind of bites, tell me in the comments below, and I will let you know the best possible ways to avoid getting bitten or stung here in Texas. Okay, I promised you I was going to show you that luxury property on 32 acres. Let's jump into the computer here. So here we are. It's a list. This property is listed by Robert Kinney with Kinney Grant Realty, and it's listed for $15 million. I mean, this picture or this property is the ultimate kind of energy efficient, modern design property on 32 acres. So you can see how they've changed, or they've made all the roof lines here to maximize the energy efficiency as the wind blows across the hilltop and the angles of the sunshine. This property has obviously the finest materials throughout. Look at the beadboard on the walls, and then you've got, look at those stairs, the craftsmanship on those wood floors right there, on the wood steps. That's really impressive. You don't see that too often. They have a game room upstairs. This property is kind of set up for the vacationer. You've got plenty of rooms. You've got the bunk room here for the kids, or just more friends to come over and stay. They've got an elevator for anyone that needs help getting up and down the stairs. They have another guest house and casita outside. They've got the swimming pool, outdoor patio, grill, dining area. Look at this kitchen. I mean, really? Come on. Who wouldn't love to have that kitchen? Lots of space to cook in, lots of space to prepare and also just hang out for entertaining. And this property, as I've mentioned, is on 32 acres. You have plenty of privacy. You've got the ability to look at the stars at night because it's so dark out there. They have their own rainwater collection system that they use. They process the water there and clean it and reuse it for some of the household needs. It's just an absolutely immaculate property. So the stats on it, if you will, it was about 6,000 square feet. It was built in 2018, and here's the 32 acres. So there's 6 bedrooms. We got 5.5 bathrooms, 3 living areas, a huge garage, a barn, and all the amenities that you want out in the areas. So if this is something you're looking for, it won't last long. So thanks for sticking around today. You saw the best and worst of Dripping Springs, all the pros and cons. I hope you enjoyed that luxury property at the end as well. Now, if you want to see more about this community, or you want more information about Dripping Springs, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. We're available for you anytime because we want to help you find the best home that fits your lifestyle. Until next time, I hope to see you around town.